Welcome to Voice for the Voiceless, Speak Your Truth. Today's podcast is about women's power and the significance of the womb and the menstrual cycle, fertility, and how pregnancy and birth can take a woman deeper into her power, and how a woman's sexuality and sensuality can change after birth and into motherhood. Today I'm going to be speaking to Avalon Darnesh from Blossoming Woman. Avalon is a temple keeper, a shamanic midwife, a teacher of women's mysteries. She runs women's circles and gatherings and has a background in holistic psychology and counselling. Hi Avalon, welcome to Voice of the Voiceless.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Can you tell us why you feel it's important to empower women?
Well, yeah, that's a huge issue, especially when you look at our culture and the state of the planet and the way women's voices haven't been heard for many generations, going back centuries. And it covers so much, giving women voice and power in culture, because if you think of women as the nurturers, and we're really here to bring love and tend things and birth things and look after things. And so this is, in a big picture, why I love seeing women stepping into their power and making a positive difference in the world, and especially in the way we raise children. If the woman chooses to have children, then that's shifting the culture just through the way we raise children to be, if women are empowered, then children are more connected with those mothers, and it's a whole flow-on effect. Mm-hmm. And then if women have more say in political issues, for example, then we're less likely to promote and support things like war and destruction, So there's a whole range of issues ranging from personal right to global, which is why I just feel so passionate about supporting women to be in their power.
Yep. So what you're saying is that women are really the key to, when women find their power, then we're able to build a better foundation for the next generation, as well as on a more global scale as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Why do you think that women often give their power away?
Well, it's actually just a cultural conditioning. We've been raised, and this goes back to, if you say, there's all different cultures. I mean, I'm most familiar with the Western culture because that's the one I've been immersed in. And so related to that, if you look at the Bible and like the religions and the patriarchal domination, like going back further than that, there were cultures that really honoured women, and women were revered and celebrated, and we, understood our bodies and really understood sexuality and fertility, and those things were much more like women were more able to be naturally part of the culture and have their place. And so then come along the patriarchy and the domination, religions and stuff, that basically, if they want to control people, then they don't want people to be in their power, especially women, because see, it's like there's a threat to the control structures when women are in our power and in our voices. So way back a long time ago, it was like women, it was enforced really, that and that still carries on subtly to this day, because the Western culture is sort of founded with those religious sort of structures. Like women's sexuality is seen as evil, and birth and for like bleeding and all our natural body processes are seen as messy and uncomfortable and painful. And yet, in truth, when we're aligned with our bodies and with nature and looking after ourselves, those things are actually not painful or inconvenient. They're actually a gateway into more of our power and more of our wisdom. And so we've been conditioned to believe that we are inferior in some way, and that so that does that sort of answer the question?
Yeah, I think it does. I remember hearing a quote, I think it was a quote, and I don't know who said it, but the gist of it was, if you want to work out who are the most, I guess, powerful people, look at who's being suppressed the most. And that's something that came up for me when you were talking.
Totally. And see, the thing is, it just carries on through the generations, because when we're little, we learn about how to be a woman by watching our own mother. So she learned from her mother. So this is how, beliefs and conditioning just carries on through the generations. And it's very interesting what's happening at the moment, I suppose for the past 50 years or so, but especially in the past 10, 20, 30 years, especially in the last 5 years, really at the moment, there's this huge cultural shift happening where all the people that I am working with and talking to, we're breaking the cycle of the things that we, like the kind of messages that we received growing up and the way we limited ourselves. It's like this whole explosion of consciousness is happening. We're changing the ways that we relate with our children. We're encouraging them to express themselves. So even though as adults, because I primarily work with mums, right? So as adults, we're still dealing with our own healing and learning how to speak up for ourselves, but we're raising our children in a way that they can speak up from the very beginning, so that by the time they hit their 20s, 30s, 40s, they're already powerful in the world, not needing to go through all the healing that a lot of my generation or, the older ones have needed to reclaim the power. And that's like a massive cultural shift that's happening right before our very eyes, which is really exciting.
I'm just curious, because you've touched on it a few times, have you heard about is it the Mayan or the Mayan calendar and the cycles?
Totally. Oh, I got so into that a while ago. Actually, it's funny you mention it, because I travelled to North America when I was in my mid-20s. I'd lived in Adelaide my whole life until my 24, 25, went to Canada and Mexico. And so I was so fascinated with the Mayan culture and went down there and went to sacred sites and was learning all about the Mayan astrology and the amazing wisdom that they are tuned into with the cycles of time and consciousness. And it's so fascinating, because we are right in the middle of a massive 26,000 year shift that's happening right now. Yeah.
So in regards to the patriarchal system, do you feel that this will shift so that more women start to find their power, and that sort of changes our system?
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because it's like power is shifting in a different way. The way I see it in the world that I'm living into, in the way that I'm visioning and supporting women, is that true power actually comes from being fully aligned in your body and with the earth. Because the problem is the current paradigm is out of alignment with the earth. It's out of alignment with nature. It's actually totally unsustainable, and it's crumbling. It's actually coming to a point where it's fascinating to watch it unfold, because the control structures are trying to gain more control by putting in stricter laws and trying to enforce, everyone to vaccinate their children, and trying to take control of how you deal with health issues. And I remember, and I won't get the quote right, but a quote from a long time ago from a really genius person who said something about when the government controls health choices, then a society is in trouble, something like that. And look around, we look at that and see, I don't get disheartened by that. I actually get really fired up, because I see that, like, my choices about how I deal with my own health and my children's health, I just have so much fire inside me that says no one is going to force me into anything. And there are a lot of people around me who have that same fire. So what happens when that fire is met by a controlling structure that is trying to make us do something? It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, so that's this like real conflict of like worldviews. And so the power, yes, coming into our power, coming into our voice, having more influence in culture. But I see that it's not the same power structures that are currently existing that are going to drive the future forward. You know, like that whole hierarchical structure where there's like one person at the top setting all the rules. I mean, you know, it's not quite like that, but generally that
a group of people,
compared to more collaborative, synergistic type partnership model where we're actually all sort of, no one's controlling things, we're cooperating. It's more of a cooperative power structure. And it's hard to visualize because we're so conditioned with this current model, but that's what I see us stepping into in the future. And that's actually the way nature works. Like it's like a big ecosystem. We're all in it. And there's not one person standing at the top saying this is what everyone has to do. It's not that. And that's why this current patriarchal system is breaking. You know, and all the corruption is being revealed, which is, it's just like this craziest tragic comedy. You know, if you look at what's actually happening on the political stage with the planet. So, yeah, it's not like we need to come into power over others, but supporting each other. To have voices, supporting, like what you're doing, supporting the voices all to be heard, because everyone matters. Everyone is a valuable member of our planet. So, yeah, it's a whole different model.
You know, there's moments when you get goosebumps from when someone else is talking. That's what I'm getting right now.
Oh, me too. Goosebumps.
I think I may have gotten the quote, maybe, that you're trying to get
maybe.
to. So this is by Henry Kissinger, 1973. He says, "Who controls the food supply controls the people. Who controls the energy can control the continents. Who controls the money can control the world." I don't know.
It's that. That's true too, and I just got goosebumps hearing that. But there's also another one specifically around health.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the same. It's the same thing, though, really.
Yep.
Isn't it? Controlling people's choices. Yeah,
for sure. That one's one that I took from the documentary Thrive. So coming back to women and our natural cycles, what do you see is the spiritual significance of bleeding and of the womb and our menstrual cycle as women?
Yeah, it's a very rich topic because most women don't understand much about our own bodies and our own cycles. And this is something that I've been journeying with deeply for the past 7 years, because I studied with the School of Shamanic Midwifery at the time, and it's changed the name because of the control structures. You're not allowed to use the word midwife unless you're actually registered with the state. So we explored, it's like the wisdom that women of, ancient times knew, the rhythm of our bodies. Our bodies are aligned with nature. There are 13 moon cycles in a year. Our bodies are aligned with the moon cycles, right? So when you start to understand that our bodies are already in tune with nature, we're naturally, we are cyclical beings. We're not linear. Like the more kind of, I suppose, when I use the word patriarchal, I don't actually mean that as a man thing. It's more as like actual cultural kind of conditioning thing. And men are just as much a victim to that as women. But there's this kind of expectation that time is linear. Like it's just like always moving forward. And it's just this big one continuum. And yet the truth is that it's more cyclical and that our bodies are cyclical and our rhythms are cyclical. So when we start to understand that actually through a month, so the average time is 28 days for a woman's cycle, and there's